Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine podcast. Today is Friday, November the 24th. We hope that every single one of you listening or watching wherever you might be right now had an incredible Thanksgiving. As Cardinal fans, we absolutely got everything we were thankful or wishing for. So we are today thankful for Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, we got innings. That's, I guess, was the objective of the beginning of the off season for the Cardinals. I don't know what to think. That's where I'm at. I don't know what to think other than I'm confused, maybe a little bit angry, and maybe a little bit intrigued. I guess those are my emotions.
I think you just summed up every Cardinal fan out there in the wide world's emotions. Here's the thing: we talked about Lance Lynn last time, kind of understood it a little bit. I'll go back to it. Don't love it, don't hate it. All right, like that's kind of where I am. The Kyle Gibson one is perplexing to me simply because, and I'll let you address this. I know you kind of did a deeper dive into some numbers, but it's kind of perplexing to me because on one hand, we're talking about we're wanting to get strikeout guys. Then we go out and get a guy like Kyle Gibson who struck out, I think, about 130 guys in almost 200 innings last year.
157.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's more than that. Which not terrible. And again, this is not. I'm not bashing on Kyle Gibson by any stretch. Welcome to St. Louis, Kyle Gibson. Like absolutely. But and in it on its own, you and I were talking about this earlier. Maybe the Kyle Gibson signing not as bad. But when it comes in after Lance Lynn and now 22.5 million of that, whatever the budget is that actually build what actually spends is gone. And honestly, if you're asking me, I could be proven wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. It looks to me like we're sitting with number 4 and number 5 starters in our rotation as we sit right now, November 24th. It's not over, so there's no need to jump off of a cliff or get freaking out. But that's what I see right now.
They have 4 guys you could argue are number 5 starters, which is the problem. Like 4 guys that could easily all perform like number 5s. And some of those guys could perform like 3s in any given year, whatever. The thing that I want to say, just so we're not like being rude to Kyle or Lance, because they don't deserve that. I like both signings in a vacuum. Right. If Kyle Gibson was the only one signed for 12 million 1 year, I like it. If Lance is the only one signed for 1 year, 10 million, I like it. I think both are fine signings. Putting them together is a problem for me. And we can get into Kyle later. Like he's similar to Lance Lynn, but I think at this point in his career better than Lance Lynn's projects to be. I think Kyle Gibson is going to give you a boatload of innings. He's going to make 32 starts, and he's going to be relatively reliable and give you a chance to win almost every time he starts. That's fine. That's not a bad place. That's not a bad fifth starter. The problem is you can say that about Michaelis, same exact thing. You can say that about Lance Lynn, same exact thing. Match you can't say it about because we don't know the amount of starts he's going to make, and he does tend to blow up. But you're building up. I think they learned the wrong lesson, is what I think. I think the lesson they learned was they didn't have enough innings, which is true. They didn't. So they're not wrong in that thinking. The problem is you had innings from Woodford and Dak and Rom and guys like this at the end of the year. Those innings were filled. They were just not quality innings. So if they believe these guys are going to give them quality innings, I don't know how many they're going to, but like I don't know. Are they building to get through the season? Are they still going to try and contend in 2024? Like that's the question they're gonna have to answer with whatever their next move is.
Last time I said it felt like a very Miami Marlins move by signing 2 guys who, just in case don't pan out, you can trade them at the deadline for more prospects. I'm still going to stick to that. I'm not saying that they are by any means giving up on the season, but I think you and I talked about this a little bit also. It almost now feels like, and we had Kyle on here, and I've seen him post about this, and we talked with him a little bit about it. It's always dangerous when you say fill-in player or bust, and it really now does feel like it's Yamamoto or bust if you're the Cardinals, because if it's not, if Yamamoto decides to go to the East Coast, or he decides to go to the West Coast, or wherever he ends up, or we get completely outbid, like out of the water, what is plan B? What is plan B like then? Do you turn to Blake Snell? Is Blake Snell, Lance Lynn, and Kyle Gibson the offseason we've all been dreaming for?
That's the worst case scenario for me. But it's Yamamoto, or this is a complete and utter failure of an offseason for the organization. And that's not me saying I think they're going to get Yamamoto. That's not me saying that that's realistic even to think. I think they're going to be involved. I think they're going to try really hard to get him. But at the end of the day, they have to be the team he says yes to and signs with. The problem is, like at the beginning of this offseason, it wasn't Yamamoto or bust. It was, you can see a world where, if Aaron Nola comes here, or if Blake Snell comes here and Sonny Gray comes here, okay, like you can see where that goes. But they've put themselves now in a position with these two guys that it's getting that guy or it's a bust. Because you save money on these two guys. Obviously, you only spent $23 million combined. You've got your volume that they wanted, and now you've got a bunch of money left over, and you've got to go spend all of it. Because if they don't, it's a failure of an offseason. If they get Blake Snell, I don't like that. I think you're making a bad signing just to make a big signing. Sonny Gray's not good enough, and he's also like 34 years old. Like right now, they have the oldest rotation in baseball, maybe. And the only saving grace here is getting a guy that's going to be very difficult to go get, even if you make a big offer.
There are people out there who will also say, well, you could trade for Dylan Cease. Here, and you and I have talked about this, and I know you've talked with other people about this on Twitter, but if you trade for Dylan Cease, that means now you're giving up a guy like Nolan Gorman or Brendan Donovan. That's what's going to be in the Dylan Cease trade, most likely, right? So now you have added Cease, Lynn, and Gibson, and you have eliminated a middle of the order bat. So your rotation, not great still, by the way, and now your offense just went down. So that whole idea makes absolutely zero sense to me. And I think this front office have now backed themselves almost into a corner where it is Yamamoto or bust. And Vincent Neil Emerson said, if you can't swim, you better learn how to drown. I'm nervous that we don't have enough life jackets on hand right now.
And the thing about Dylan Cease is, if you're planning on going to get him, he's cheaper next year than Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. So even if they're going to trade Gorman for Dylan Cease, then you should have done that instead of getting Lynn or Gibson, one of the two. And then you should also go get Yamamoto anyway. Right. So then you could have gotten both of them and spent less money. So I'm not even even if they get Dylan Cease, because that's a pivot, it's still a failure because you could have gotten Cease and a big guy. You could have gotten both. If you're trading Nolan Gorman or you're trading Donovan or whomever you'd have to trade to get Cease, you better make a damn good rotation. And if you're trading one of those because you need a big guy at the front of it, it's a failure because your rotation will still suck.
Let me ask you this. I've seen this report out there, and it's a great thought because it's where you and I stood coming into the season with Yamamoto and Glasnow. You've already spent $23 million. You're not getting both of those guys. Yamamoto's going to get close to 30, right? So even if let's just say, even if you were to get Glasnow, that he's owed $25 million next year. So I know, obviously you're going to trade somebody for him, but you're not going to trade $20 million for Tyler Glasnow. That's not even enough. You don't have that to trade. So even if you trade Edman, that's $7 million. You're still now in the $70 million range in the offseason. They're not doing that. So here's my question to you. Yamamoto here, we will be ecstatic because the future, very excited to have a guy like that. It's been a long time since we've added a top free agent like that. Right? I mean, never, but I mean, it's been a long time since we've added a top free agent, right? Do you still believe that Yamamoto and the cast of merry characters that we have in that rotation are enough to even put the Cardinals leaps and bounds above where they were last year? Or do you think part two, it puts them in contention with the Braves, the Phillies, the Dodgers, potentially the Padres? We don't know what they'll do. Potentially the Cubs. Do you think that's enough to put them in contention with them?
No, it's enough to get into the deadline, I think, to have a chance to put themselves in contention with a big move. But I think if they get Yamamoto, I see their vision. Their vision is we're not getting ourselves in a bad contract for a guy that's over 30, right? That's going to cost a pick. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to get two guys that are stopgaps. They're going to give us a boatload of innings, and we're going to get the young guy that we've been wanting for however many years. And we've got our guy for the next however many years, 8 years, 9 years, whatever you sign him to. And then we've got those two guys to get us through innings-wise. So I will see their vision on that. Their vision would be, we don't want to give up a pick, and we don't want to give up a 31-year-old, 9 years, or 8 years or 7 years, because that's going to age poorly. It just will. So I would understand it. But if they don't get Yamamoto, and they get Snell, or they get Sonny Gray, or they get Monty, or they get Eduardo Rodriguez, I don't see the vision. I don't see it.
Right. If this is something that I've never really been in favor of. I've understood the logic, but I'd like to get your take on it. And it's not something that the Cardinals have ever done, in your lifetime, obviously, and probably in the generation before you. If at this point you whiff on Yamamoto, and I don't mean whiff in a bad sense. I mean, he chooses Boston, he chooses New York, he chooses LA, right? He chooses one of those over the
most likely scenario.
Agreed, 100%. If that happens, I'm almost to the point now where it is, and I've talked about this, but I'd like to get your take on here, that we blow it up now. Honestly, Like, because here's the thing. If you do pivot to a Blake Snell, does that keep, like, the Cubs are going to spend money. We don't know what they're going to do yet, but they're going to spend money. And they're also an up and coming team with a very good farm system. So they have a lot of wiggle room in there. I think they're going to be better. Does that keep you, does Blake Snell keep you in the NL Central till August with that other four? I don't know that it does. And I know that we have a really good offense, but at this point, it almost makes me concerned about a Goldie extension or a Nolan Arenado deal if you miss out on Yamamoto, to be really honest with you. Like, it might be time to turn to that and just start thinking about, okay, we've got Lynn, we've got Gibson, we got Michaelis. Those are three guys we could trade at the trade deadline and get pieces for the future. They might not be incredible, but they're going to be something, just like we did with Montgomery and Flaherty. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I hate this.
They're not
this
doing
is not
it.
where I
They're
saw
not
us.
gonna. My thoughts are they're not going to do that.
So they're
even
going
if
to
they
wallow
should.
in mediocrity is what they'll do.
I mean, yeah, that is what they'd rather do. But here's the thing. Like, yeah, I think that's what if they don't get, I mean, that's tough because if they don't get Yamamoto and they go get Sonny Gray, is there a way for that to work to the deadline? Yeah, there is. I mean, it's unlikely, but there's a way. They're not going to do that just because they've never done it and they pride themselves on having never done it. But they're in a tough spot. Like, they're in a good spot to where if they did decide to do that, it wouldn't be a long rebuild because all their quote unquote stud prospects are in the major leagues already. Like, those guys aren't 3 years away; they're here. So that's one thing. But I wonder how much of this is they really don't want to give up that pick, and they also really like Roby and Hanson, Jerpy and Graceffo, and think those guys can be good for them the next 2 years. At Thompson, so they're not going to do that. And there is a conversation that if they miss on Yamamoto, and if they sign Blake Snell there, that to me is like the ultimate Cardinals pivot that goes very wrong.
It seems like it's the Dexter Fowler pitching move.
He's better than Dexter Fowler ever was.
But you see what I'm saying. Like, I wasn't saying he's Dexter Fowler.
I get it, but Dexter Fowler like never won MVP. Blake Snell's 2-time Cy Young Award winner. So it's bigger than that. It's like Ozuna. Right. That's what it is.
So can I ask you, for the people watching and listening right now who might not understand it, and I'm not sure that I truly understand, what is your massive concern about Blake Snell, like, who is a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, who is coming off an incredible year on a team that was in absolute disarray the entire season? What is your, can you articulate that for the people watching? By the way, those of you doing that, thank you again. We hope you had an awesome day yesterday. If you'd hit that subscribe button on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, we would greatly appreciate it. You guys have been awesome lately. And his comments have been incredible. Keep them coming. We love them. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So for Blake Snell, for me, he walks the world. He's inconsistent with his eliteness, I guess, if that's a weird way to say it. He's had 2 elite seasons, 2 Cy Young seasons. In between those 2 Cy Young seasons, he's been injured or mediocre or just like inconsistent mainly. Like, he'll have amazing second halves consistently, but bad first halves. But my main concern is the walks. Like, if you have a guy like him who's going to walk the world, what happens when he doesn't have the strikeout punch that he has right now at 30? And those balls start being put in play with the runners in scoring position that he's putting on base. That's how you start getting 4.55 ERAs, because he's not able to punch out 3 guys in a row when he loads the bases on walks. Like, he has that ability that few pitchers have to dance out of danger, to put himself in bad situations, but lock it in, and he has the stuff to be able to get out of those situations. What happens when that stuff diminishes? What happens when his 97 turns to 93? What happens when his curveball is a little bit loopier? Like, that's what's going to happen when you're in his 33, 34, 35 seasons. And that's just recipes for a disaster. Like, Dylan Cease is the same with the walks, but Dylan Cease isn't 30. Like, Dylan Cease is young. So you still have some years of him being able to do that. I don't think Blake Snell can do that. I also don't think Blake Snell's prototype as a pitcher lends itself to being healthy. He doesn't throw a lot of innings. Like, he goes 5. Most years he gives you 120 to 150. There are outlier years like this year where he gives you 180. He's an ace sometimes, but sometimes he's just not that. And most times he's not that. So you're paying him coming off of his second best season, where his first best season was like 5 years ago. And what are the odds is he going to just duplicate that once throughout the 6 years you're paying him for?
Yeah, just to clarify what you said, he's only thrown 180 innings twice. Everything else has been in the 120s or below. Yeah. Just so people out there will know that. I kind of want to give them that. Let me ask you this then, to play not necessarily devil's advocate, but just for you to be able to clarify. That sort of your description of Blake Snell is what a lot of people have said about Aaron Nola, but yet you seemed all in sort of on Aaron Nola. What like that what you just described about Blake Snell outside of the innings? I understand Aaron Nola's been an innings guy, completely get that. But as far as the contract and the age, that was also, I'm sure, a concern of everyone's. But anything there?
It's not the same concern because Aaron Nola doesn't walk people. Aaron Nola doesn't
and he
put
goes
people on
180 innings
base.
a year, 90 innings,
Yeah, he
190
throws
innings. Yeah.
200 innings and doesn't
Agreed.
walk
I agree.
people.
I
It's
just
way different than going 120 and walking, 4 people per 9. Like if Blake Snell's stuff diminishes at all, it's going to be an albatross of a contract. Like maybe it won't. Maybe he's going to have great stuff and like Scherzer and Verlander into his late 30s, and I hope for him he does. But I'm not willing to risk that. I'm not willing to put my contract on the line for that. I'm not doing
one one thing you have to hope if you're the Cardinals, and you and I bet on FanDuel, all right, and we know that parlays tough to hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but one thing I think we have to hope is so you have to hit on 4. It seems like we need Michaelis, Gibson, and Lynn to go back to 2022 form, and we need Steven Matz to go back to 2020 form. And if you do all of that, then potentially you've got something. But that's a 4-leg parlay that probably all 4 are plus 120. So I mean, all 4 together probably a plus 1600.
Can I play devil's advocate to one of those things? I think we need Kyle Gibson to be the exact same he was last year. He had a 4.2 FIP. He was playing in a tough ballpark against the AL East. And he threw 190 innings. He hasn't struck out people. That is what it is. But his ERA was like 0.5 points higher than it should have been based on his fielding independent pitching. So normally sinker ballers outperform their FIP. They don't underperform relative to it. So if Arenado's back to Arenado, which I think he will be, you have Mason Wynn. Second base is going to be maybe a revolving door, but probably Gorman and Goldie. I like the defense being able to help him out. I like the stadium being able to help him out. So I think Kyle Gibson's the best signing they've made. I actually think he's probably the best pitcher they have right now. Like honestly, the guy that I believe in the most next year. So Kyle Gibson, I would put to the side because I think if he repeats how he was in 2023, you're going to be happy with what he's doing in 2024 because he might be around a 4 and he might be, around a 4 ERA and he might be giving you 190 innings and that's more than solid for 13 million.
The one thing I'll say is he gave up about 1 home run per 9, right?
That's fine.
That absolutely. And what I would say also is that I think one misnomer is that Baltimore Hitters Park, it's not anymore. Like they moved those fences back.
It is for right field.
Yeah, right. Correct. And as a right-handed pitcher. But I also think not facing the Rays, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox 60 times won't hurt. Coming to face the Reds, the too. Brewers, yes. So the Cardinal ballpark that could up. Now, the one thing that still is a concern, and we talked with Kyle a lot about this, and I think the defense that's going to be a big thing for both Gibson, for all 3, Gibson and Michaelis especially. Like you're going to have to shore up that defense, and that means Nolan Arenado has to step up his play at third base. That means Nolan Gorman or Brendan Donovan, whoever is your second baseman, and probably you're going to see both of them there. But you have to figure out center field, whether it's Dylan Carlson or it's Tommy Edman. You have to figure that we can't go with this outfield of Walker, Nootbaar, and Burleson out there every day. You just can't run that out there and hope then that your signings of Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, fly ball pitcher, and then also Miles Michaelis are going to help you. You've got to shore up that defense. And we got to hope that Wilson takes the next step also in calling those games and everything else. Because we've just added 2 guys that Wilson Contreras now has never caught either. So that's another thing to throw. I'm not saying that's a massive thing. Teams do that all the time. But that is something to throw into the rotation. And you're going to add another one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The defense in the outfield, I don't think Burleson will play outfield maybe ever. Like I think if like you have Nootbaar in center and Walker in right for a game, then you just put Donovan in left. Like you have so many options with Donovan and Edman help you out a lot with that. Like there's a chance we see Tommy only playing as lefties and he's playing center field and you have Nootbaar in center field against righties and you move Donovan out to left. Like there's a lot they can do. I think the defense will be better. Like I think Nolan's going to be better because he's Nolan. Goldie's always good. Gorman, I think, probably will continue to get better. Like there's no reason to believe he's going to get worse. And Mason Wynn at shortstop just incredible. He might be the best defensive shortstop we've had in my lifetime over there. So it's interesting. The outfield's a concern. Like Jordan Walker has to be better. No, maybe Rafael Furcal would be the guy who's a shot at, but like Jordan Walker's where he's got to get better.
Rafael Furcal.
Jordan Walker has to be better. If he's not better, then he can't play in the outfield. This is the year where if Walker's not better in right field, he should be the DH every day and he shouldn't touch the outfield. Like at some time, you can't just put him out there just because he's young. He's got to figure it out.
Right. Anything else you want to talk on Gibson before we pivot?
No, we didn't really talk much about him specifically, but I think it's a good signing in a vacuum. The problem is the Lance Lynn part of it. And it's so confusing to me. Like they talked such a big game going into the offseason about, changing their methodology and all that. Well, they haven't done that. They haven't added swing and miss. Like Lance Lynn strikes out around 1 per 9, but his strikeout percentage isn't good because he gives up so many hits. Like I didn't say this yet. Michaelis, Lynn, Gibson are in the top 5 worst last year giving up hits.
No,
all 3 of them. And a lot of that's because, and you can say devil's advocate, they pitch a lot of innings. That's why it's part of it. But it's also because they don't limit hard contact very well. And like if they're giving up that many hits and you still have that outfield that's floundering out there, you're screwed. So the outfield has to get better or this team's not going anywhere.
Remember just a couple years ago, we talked about how the Cardinals had the best defensive outfield in baseball and it wasn't even close. And they did. O'Neill, Bader, and Carlson was the best defensive outfield in the major leagues at the time.
Yep.
And now Bader, obviously, whatever. Tyler O'Neill's going to be gone. We don't know what's going to happen to Dylan Carlson.
What if he's not? What if Tyler O'Neill's not gone?
I think we should talk about that next time. Like, I would love to have somebody on. Maybe we get somebody come on with us and talk about that because I'd like to get somebody else's perspective on that as well. Because there is a world where Carlson, O'Neill, and Edman are still on this team, and Ollie has to make all those decisions.
One of Carlson or O'Neill will be gone. But what if they're not getting value for O'Neill? Would you be opposed to bringing him back and saying you're playing left field?
You got to give me more time to think about that than right now.
I mean, we're talking about defense. He provides.
My answer is no. You know as well as I do. I am a Tyler O'Neill fan as far as performance on the field when healthy. All right, that's what I'm speaking of. Mm-hmm. I don't know all the other stuff that happened last year. I don't know all the other stuff that happened coming off the contract stuff. I don't know any of that. I don't know the man. I love when he is healthy and he is on the field. 80% of the time he is performing at an elite level. Yes, there have been stretches coming off of things. I understand that. But when he is going, there's not a lot of guys we've talked about, he's a unicorn. There aren't a lot of guys in Major League Baseball who does what Tyler O'Neill does. And in fact, this team doesn't have a lot of those guys out, obviously at his age. Yes, I would be fine if Tyler O'Neill was on this team, but I think that I think that creates a massive logjam. I don't see him on the opening day roster. That's what I'll say.
I don't either. And I think my answer would be no, he needs to be gone. It's time to move on.
It might be one of those things where that's just a better thing for everyone involved. Ollie, the Cardinals, and Tyler. Like, to be honest, and what's going to happen is he's going to go somewhere and hit 35 bombs next year. You know that.
Then good for him. But
I agree. I agree.
You've given him 5 years. Like, you've given him 5 years. He's had one good season. The rest have been bad. Well, so that is what it is. Like,
I mean, your thing is O'Neill to Cleveland for Karinchak, correct? Like, that's what you would love to see.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great. You and I was going to pivot a little bit to the bullpen, just because. Also, by the way, one thing we didn't mention: Kyle Gibson, Mizzou guy. So again, more roots coming back. The reunion, the Eras tour continues. The Eras tour continues. But here's the thing.
Oh, that's actually a good point. No, before you move on, that's the point I want to hit on. It feels like the Cardinals use free agency as gauging who wants to be a Cardinal. Instead of saying this is how much we want you to be a Cardinal, they say how much do you want to be a Cardinal?
Well, they've done that for years.
Stop with that bullshit. Stop with it. People don't have to want you to pay them. I'm so sick of it. Contreras want to be a Cardinal. Awesome. Goldie and Arenado, not free agents, but they both want to be Cardinals. Great. But you can't just say, well, if you don't want to be a Cardinal, we can't offer you that. Stop with it. I don't understand this. It is so ridiculous that they pigeonhole themselves into people that want to be Cardinals. And you know what? Yamamoto might want to be a Cardinal. There's enough out there that could make me believe that's possible. I just found out Taguchi is one of his coaches. Okay, so there's even more parallels with Yamamoto. And that's great. And if you can get him to come, amazing. But you cannot want to be wanted, but not tell people that you want them. Like, it's ridiculous to me. I don't understand. It's like they want to have the easiest off seasons they can by saying, oh, you want to be a Cardinal? Let's make it work. Stop. Sometimes you have to go out of your comfort zone.
Maybe the biggest cheap trick fans of all times, right there, right? I want you to want me. That's what they want.
It's ridiculous.
It's not every podcast you come to. You get a Vincent Neil Emerson quote and a cheap trick quote. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. Anyway, here's the thing. Welcome to St. Louis, Kyle Gibson, because I don't want it to sound like we are like I'm not going to do that. I've talked to you. I've been a Kyle Gibson fan. Like, everywhere he's been, he has had, like, he's performed. And
also like an all-time human being.
Agreed. So I am happy that he's in our clubhouse. I'm happy that Lance Lynn is in our clubhouse. I just wish that we would have 2 other guys That's all I'm saying. Like, I wish we'd have two other. You have to hope that you have to hope it's a Michaelis bounce back year, and that this is the year that Steven Matz stays healthy and figures it out. We've yet to see that. Though that's a lot to bank on. It's a lot to bank on. That's all I'm saying. And even bringing in Yamamoto, I don't know that puts us in that. I just don't know that it puts us in that conversation yet.
No, but that gives you a window of opportunity to get there by the trade deadline.
It could. Hold on. It could. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, right. But that's for everyone. Like the Mets,
because if everybody performs like they did in 23, then we're not in that window. And honestly, our pitching staff's not better than it was with Montgomery and Flaherty.
That's not true. Flaherty. Well, that was Montgomery, yes, but that would be Yamamoto's way better than. Well, projects to be better than Montgomery. And then you go like Flaherty and Wainwright. As the aggregate of those two, they were bad, very bad.
That's fair.
So they've gotten better from Wainwright. There's no doubt about that. Like I love Waino. He was one of the worst starters I've ever seen. So actually,
statistically, one of the worst in baseball history.
Yeah, and that's just as what it is. He was pitching with like half an arc. That's fine.
Correct.
But I do think there is a big part of this that is the clubhouse. And maybe there were more clubhouse issues than we were giving it credit for. Maybe the Wilson situation where pitchers were calling him out and not wanting to throw to him. Maybe that was a big thing. And they didn't like the chemistry that was going on with some of the guys that left here. Maybe the O'Neill thing was a bigger thing than we thought it was, whatever. But I don't know what their plan is if it's not Yamamoto. Like it seems like this is one of those things that they do where they put all their eggs in one basket. And sometimes it works. Goldie, it worked. Arenado, it worked. Contreras, like I don't think they put all their eggs in his basket, but once they pivoted to him, they end up getting him. But a lot of people like to prove out the successes of this. And I'll say they put all their eggs in David Price's basket. Did not work. They put all their eggs in Adam Eaton's basket. That did not work because other teams wanted them more than you did. So if you're the Cardinals and this is your move, and this is the move that you've been planning, which from most press conferences, it sure sounded like he was like, we've got a big move coming. Everyone just relax for now. I think this is their move. That means
hold on,
have to get him.
One thing we know is that you and my definition of big much different than Moselak's definition of big.
You act like he hasn't given you two
here's what I'm saying though.
Last 4 years.
It could also come down to though. This is the difference. This isn't just a money move. The Cardinals could outbid everyone, but if he decides he wants to play in Boston with his buddies, or he wants to play in New York with his buddies,
what buddies?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I don't know what his relationship with Sengai is.
I know we know what his relationship with Newpar is.
I get it. We gotta hope, but again,
well, we've already gotten reports. Hold on, we've already gotten reports that he would be willing to play in St. Louis. We've gotten even more reports that he doesn't care about where he's going. That means to me, pay him, make it. And but guess what? If he on whether he wants to come to you or Boston, sell it to him and give him more money.
You and I are in full agreement on
that.
That's
their job.
But reminder, Max Scherzer wanted to play in St. Louis. Bryce Harper said he was open to coming to St. Louis. I understand, but hold on. Stop. It is because past performance do predict future outcomes. So
it's not relevant because neither of those teams were like massive failures that needed a big move to get fans back
until they change to make this move. That's going to be the pessimism that you get, and it's warranted.
I agree with you, and I'm not saying they're going to land him. That was my whole point I was going to. If this is their move that they're planning and that they want to get done, then you have to get him. If you don't get him, then it's a failure. I don't care if we tried our hardest, but he wanted to go to New York. I don't pay him $50 million more than.
What if he's terrible?
I don't care. Then he's terrible, but at least you tried. But at least you tried.
I agree. It's like that's the worst case.
It's true though, Dad. Like at least they did something different. If they do the same, hold on. If they do the same thing, we know it's not going to work. If you do something different and it fails, at least you did something different.
Definition of insanity. We know that, right? And we are we have seen a lot of insanity in this organization at times. Let's play ifs and buts or and/ors or whatever. If they do sign Yamamoto, right? And they're sitting they're sitting at $53 million, right? Do you see them going after another bounce back candidate arm just to give them another arm?
Starter?
That if it doesn't start, because and here's the reason I ask. If you go after a trade, if you're going to trade a Carlson, you're going to trade an O'Neill, and you get a reliever back, those salaries are going to kind of offset, right? So you would potentially still have some money to spend. And I don't know what that name is. I don't know who that is out there, but that's my question.
I'm going to say no, not because they might not want to, but because if you have 5 starters, a bounce back guy isn't going to go join a team that he may
I
or may
agree with
not
you.
be a starter. Like that's
I
the
agree
problem
with
they
you.
went and got into last year, and they even said
Yes.
this. They tried to go after Lorenzen and guys like that, but Lorenzen went to Detroit where he had a for sure starting
Which,
gig.
by the way, is what you and I told everyone on social media when they kept saying sign 8 starting pitchers. Remember?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can't do
we got to
that.
sign 8. That's not how the world works, folks.
You
You're
can't
going
do
to
that.
sign
Yeah.
as a starter and you want a slot.
Yeah, and that also could be like I think they're only getting one more starter. Like I think that's been the
I do
reporting,
too.
and
I
I
agree.
do think that's what's going to happen. But there is a part of my brain that says they got Gibson and they got Lynn immediately. So those guys are signed. If you want to go get 2 starters now that are better than them, you could do that, and you don't have to worry about, other guys not wanting to come to you because they don't have a for sure spot because they're already signed. You already got those two. So there
There,
is a world where that is why they did that, but then that'd be broken promises, and I don't think that either.
there's also a world though where Steven Matson's up in the bullpen. To be really honest with you, we saw Steven Matson in the bullpen perform.
Yeah, but here's the
He's
problem
only
with that, Dad.
$11 million. Like that's
I
what
agree. I agree. But here's the problem
Rodriguez
with
got.
that. He's better than the 2 guys you
Lopez,
just
sorry.
signed. He's better
Is
than them.
he? He hasn't been
Yes.
in the last 3 years.
He
He
has
hasn't
okay, he
been
has the potential to
last
be
2 years.
much
Sorry.
better than them.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
that stretch we saw at the end of his season before he got injured again was better than anything the other 3 guys you have in rotation can give you, I think.
I
So
agree.
like then you're just kind of like limiting your upside by
I
doing
just
that.
think also it's the and from a fan's perspective, and you and I agree that you're not going to go and sign 8 starting pitchers. Like Kyle's 9 was hilarious. That made me laugh so hard because like that does be like what they would try to do. But now you also have 4 guys who are in their mid to late 30s, and another
All
one. What's
4.
Matt? Oh, it's Matt. I didn't
33.
know how. Okay, so I mean, that's a
They're old. They're old. They're old as shit.
here's the thing that always like just does me in it. And I know you got options on Lynn and Gibson or whatever for the next year, but we're going to be going through this one more time again next year. Like, God bless us, Caleb, for starting a Cardinals podcast and
Here's
thinking
the
that
thing,
this
Dad.
wasn't going to be our thing every year.
Here's the thing. You got Tekoa Roby and Gordon Graceffa. One of those two has to be a starter for you. Like one of them has to be in your rotation going into 2024. Write it in pen. They're in your rotation. I mean, 2025. Sorry, they're in your rotation. The Cardinals have to start developing these guys, and they have to start being starters. And to be fair, like they did develop Jack and they developed Dakota, and those were guys that a couple of years ago we would have said those are 2 of your 5, right? So they have done this. They have to keep doing it, and part of that might be them saying we can't go out there and sign 3 long-term contracts and have 5 contracts in our rotation. It's not feasible to
I
do that
agree.
every year. So if you, because then it completely like, what if they want Corbin Burns next year, but you already have Sonny Gray, who maybe was bad for you in 2024, but you got him for 3 more years. Like then it limits everything you can do. They're not signing Corbin Burns, by the way. That was just an example, but it limits what you can do. So I think part of this is we've just got to, have these 2 guys in place that we know if we need them, they can give us 200 innings. But ideally, Roby forces your hand or Graceffa forces your hand, and they become one of your starters next year. And then you write that in pin for the following year. That's the ideal situation.
Here is how, for me, as a fan who's been a fan for, I mean, I watched baseball when I was 5 or 6, but 1982 was what got me fell in love with the Cardinals, fell in love with baseball. I mean, I'd gone to the games, I loved it. I was playing T-ball, whatever. But 82, so for however long, 41 years, right? As a massive Cardinal fan. Here's what could save it for me. All right. Yamamoto. And hold on, I'm dead serious. Like Yamamoto and the Brandon Woodruff 2 years for 30 mil, where you give him 5 this year and 25 next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. Like that, and that's something you brought up on here. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but that all falls within your monetary parameters. It gives you insurance at the end, because he's not going to pitch till at least August, so it gives you insurance. And you also then, if it fucking goes to hell, you can then trade. Honestly, you got 3 to 4 guys you can trade at the trade deadline.
3,
And
you
next year,
can't trade Michaelis.
and next year you go into the year with Yamamoto and Woodruff in your rotation. Like that is honestly, that is a move that if I'm the Card, like you've brought it up on here. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm saying though that is something that would be very savvy and that would honestly make these 2 other moves in Lynn and Gibson look way, way better, and also look like, hey, they do fucking know what they're doing. I'm going to be really honest with you. Like that to me is what would work.
I agree. And here's my question. That would be great, by the way. Those 2 moves would be amazing. Because can you hear that in the background? That washer is going ham. Okay. Anyway,
I cannot hear it.
Like Woodruff would be great. I don't know if they're going to be the team that takes that risk because I just don't think they will be. Because I think I don't know, but that would be great because you have him for the end of the year, and you're looking at a playoff rotation that you built while also building a rotation that can get you innings leading up to when he's healthy. So that would make a lot of sense. But my question is there a way for this offseason to work without Yamamoto for you?
No. Well, here's the thing. Okay. Let me answer your question two ways. One, I'm still not sold that getting Yamamoto is even still enough. All right. So that's what I'm going to say. One. Okay. I want it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying don't do it. But there is a world where Blake Snell outperforms Yamamoto in 2024. There is. Now, going forward, what does that deal look like? Is that a 7-year deal? I don't know that that's a deal that the Cardinals are going to make. We saw them not have a lot of interest in Aaron Nola. There could be many reasons. I'm not saying they didn't have interest, sorry, but they didn't offer him probably because I still believe they had intel that he was going back to Philadelphia. I honestly, truly believe that. So why waste your time and spend a lot of time courting someone that you know, unless you completely overpay for, isn't coming here? That could be the same thing with Blake Snell. If you go out and you don't get Yamamoto, they are in. I mean, I'm good. Like I said, all those eggs seem to be in one basket right now. Like you said, all their chips are in the middle. If they don't get Yamamoto, unless you go get Sonny Gray and Jordan Montgomery, which I agree. That's what I'm saying. And then now all of a sudden you're locked into those contracts. I just don't see it. I don't know what the pivot move is. That's why I brought up earlier. I don't know that there is a plan B. And we know that when the Cardinals don't have a plan B, that's when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, and it's weird to me that if that is the case, and maybe we're all reading too much into this, and maybe Yamamoto isn't even on their radar. I don't believe that to be the case, but there is that possibility where they're really not all that involved in him because we've seen that before. I don't believe that to be the case. If this really is the Yamamoto sweepstakes where they're like finally prepared to win a bidding war, which they have never done. They have never, ever won a bidding war, ever. Like, it's not even like recently, ever. They've never done it. So if they're finally prepared to do that, great. But if you miss on it,
Yep.
and you sign Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson to get those out of the way, and now you're locked into those two, how are you getting people through the gates? I'll be honest with you. I love the Cardinals. I will watch every game. I'm not going to opening day if they don't get a stud at top of the rotation. I'm not going. Because why would I spend my money on you? You're not spending your money. You're not spending our money we're giving you to spend. Like, Correct. You're not spending it.
Correct.
So, and I love the Cardinals. I will watch every game. We'll do this podcast, whatever. I'm not going to spend all my money if they're not going to spend their money.
That's podcast, whatever.
Yeah, but I will. But I'm just being honest. Like, I think a lot of fans think the same way. Like, if they don't get Yamamoto, or they don't get someone, like, honestly, if they just don't get him because they had Aaron Nola, but he wasn't coming here. Like, why would I continue to do the same thing over and over? Like, they're screwed if that doesn't happen. And I think they know that maybe because Mo started his press conference saying, "Everybody, calm down. This is one day in time. It's not the entire."
Which, by the way, that was not nice to Kyle Gibson at all.
Yeah, but he read the room at least. At least Mo read the room for once. Well, he didn't come in and try to say, these are our grandiose things. We got 400 innings.
One other plea. The people, everyone listening, everyone watching, everyone who might know someone who listens or who doesn't, but they know they're a Cardinal fan, and everyone in the St. Louis media, can we just pay attention to Derek Gould and not everyone else? No offense to Katie Woo.
Don't
pay
say
attention
that.
To her too.
Don't say that.
No. Pay attention to her. Yeah, I'm saying pay attention to the people who are in the room asking the questions that report factual information. Katie Woo, especially, and Derek Gould, those two. Like, all this other stuff is literally radio fodder for you to tune into their shows. And I would like us to just, let's not just focus on the negative all the time. Let's focus on what Derek Gould actually says. Read his words, guys. Like, he says everything with intention. There's a reason he writes the way he does. There's an intention behind his words. You have to read them and be able to figure those out. Like, that's the key to me, which does still give me hope for Yamamoto. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and it's like even Ben Feddersen does a great job too. And he said there's
agree.
A lot of
yes, thank you. I agree. Yes.
There's a lot of Yamamoto undertones in this press conference. What he said, these are people that, one, they don't spread BS. Like, they don't do that. But also, they have talked to Mo for years and years and years, and they know what he's saying, even if he's not saying it, because they've seen it enough. They've seen when he's not interested in the top of the market. He'll basically tell you he's not interested. Like, everyone wanted him to be interested in shortstops last year. He said, we have Tommy Edman. He believed that. They didn't get a shortstop. Everyone just wanted him to get a shortstop. So I do think there is part of that. And the radio shows, like, those guys don't know anything that these reporters don't know because they're not in the room. They're not reporters.
That's what I was trying to say.
Personalities. And like you watch them and do that. They're entertaining. That's fine. But take them for what they are, which is not people reporting to you things. They're giving opinions most of the time, which is fine. That's their job. But just know that that's what they're doing.
Agreed. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you for using that Illinois degree is going to pay off. So good job. That was good.
Thanks.
I was going to say something. Oh, Thanksgiving was good yesterday, though, huh?
Yeah, it was. I kept waiting for Yamamoto Thanksgiving present, but we didn't get it.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's exactly what's going to happen. We are going to in this podcast here in just a second. You're going to put it out, and we are going to sign Michael Wacha.
Okay, here's what I'll say. If that happens, podcast is over. We'll start doing a Phillies one or something.
Two questions. Last thing I want to say, and then we'll get out of here. All right. You and I talked a little bit earlier about the bullpen, right? Mm-hmm. Probably 2 to 3 pieces, maybe looking at in the bullpen. I think two. I still think one of those at least comes via trade. Do you see a world where Joe Kelly's a St. Louis Cardinal?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I really do, and it's not just because he's a Cardinal
or
whatever. And I think we've all kind of been waiting for the Joe Kelly reunion. It feels like it's going to happen at some point.
I think so too.
But I think he brings something to your bullpen that you don't have. He's mean. Like he's a mean pitcher. Like I'm sure he's a great guy. He's goofy, whatever. But he's a mean pitcher on the mound. He does not give a shit about what the other team thinks about him. And he'll do the Bob Gibson. I'll throw 98 up and in to make you uncomfortable.
Yes.
He's not going to try to hit you, but he doesn't care if he does also. So
what do you think that contract would look like? Like what kind of money do you think Joe Kelly gets?
My guess would be 1 year, 5, 6, 7-ish with an option for 2025. That'd be my guess.
Okay. I mean, I would by the way, I would be that if we're going to do the Eras tour, let's go ahead and bring Joe Kelly back. I'm fine with that. And by the way, guys, there was zero offense meant at Michael Wacha. I think he's going to get paid pretty well, and I think he should for his last couple of years. I just don't think that he fits the bill right now, especially after you sign Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson.
After if he would have been like instead of Lance Lynn, okay, like that, okay, and then you had to get one more guy. Like if it would have been Michael Wacha and Kyle Gibson instead of Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, that's a better start to the offseason. But
not at Lance. I don't like that at all.
He gave up 44 home runs. Like it is what it is. I can't change the stats here. It's just true. But Michael Wacha is a good pitcher, and I hope he gets paid a boatload of money from somebody.
Me too.
But
absolutely,
if he's our best pitcher we acquire, that's worst case scenario. Sound the alarms. No one's coming to Busch next year.
Last thing I'll ask, and then we'll get out of here. All right. When do you foresee a Yamamoto signing by whomever signs him? Like, what do you think? Obviously, 45 days. That clock started on Tuesday. We're 3 deep. We got 42 to go. 7 weeks from today. He has to be signed. I don't know that date. I'm not going to look it up, but my guess is it's
January 6th-ish, something like that.
That's early? Okay. All right. Either way.
January 6th, I don't like that days. At all. Let's not get into that. He only has 45 days. So yeah, because he's been posted for about a week now. So I think right around the winter meetings, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after, there was a report that came out in Japanese, so the translation is not perfect, especially for people using Google Translate. So I can only go off the translation that I read. It might be incorrect. I don't know. But they said that he was planning on coming back. Like he's going back to Japan here in a few days, and he's planning on coming back right after the winter meetings. So my guess would be right around the winter meetings when he will sign. He'll come back for whatever press conference that he's doing. That's my guess.
How awesome would it be to be that guy right now where literally every 30 teams are courting you?
He was sitting courtside at a Lakers game.
I mean, good Lord.
It's awesome, yeah.
Shout out to him. We got to get him here. I'm buying a jersey immediately, just so you know.
Yeah. You're buying they're not getting him.
What's your % chance that he's a St. Louis Cardinal by Christmas? No, I don't even know the date. What's your chance he's a St. Louis Cardinal? I don't care when it is.
Okay, higher than it should be because I'm crazy. So I'm going to say 25%.
Okay, I put mine a little higher.
I'm giving 25 to the Cardinals, 25 to the Dodgers, 25 to the Mets, and 25 to the Red Sox.
I'm kind of taking the Dodgers out of it because I do believe Ohtani ends up in LA. I think he stays there. So I'm going 33. But if he doesn't,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm going, okay. And maybe I should go 30. Here's honestly what I should do, like 30-30 with Boston and St. Louis, and then 40 with the Mets, just because Steve Cohen might give him like $45 million a year.
Yeah, that definitely could happen. Like the Mets to me would be the odds-on favorite right now, no doubt. You have to get the Yankees at least 5% chance, right? Like, so here's the thing: like, we gotta hope that Joe Wolf hating New York really is a thing, and
we do. I agree. All right,
like Yamamoto just doesn't even talk to the Mets.
Nolan, Joel Wolf, work your magic. That's what we got.
And And oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? The guy in our clubhouse that was over there. Oh God,
Oh,
I've talked about him so many times.
I don't even know who that is, so I should
Crap,
know that.
Slater.
Oh
Slater.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Him,
Yep.
and then also the Oryx Buffaloes guy that they love. Like, there's a lot of connections here.
We got to make it happen. Hey,
It's the Cardinal move though,
I'm
where
an
there's so much smoke around it before it happens, like Goldie and
has
Arenado.
he tried emos? Because that could be a game changer. If it's me, I'm going to New York. If I tried emos, but
Yeah, don't give him the
people do love
pizza.
it.
Don't give him the pizza. No, yeah,
Toasted
don't give him.
ravs.
If he's comparing New York pizza to St. Louis pizza, he's not coming here. If that's his
Hey,
deciding
toasted
factor.
ravioli. Is that what you're doing? Are you giving them gooey butter cake?
Hey, Newt Bar was in St. Louis eating toasted ravioli the other day. Maybe he had
I
a
do
friend
miss
with him.
toasted ravioli. They sell them in a box down here, but it ain't the same.
That's gross.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. So you'd give him a 33% chance. That seems crazy.
No, it's crazy. I know, but I mean that's
Like
all I have right
25 is
now.
crazy. And realistically, it might be two.
All my chips are in the middle now too. It's all I've got because if they don't sign him, I'm telling you, Plan B is going to blow up. I believe.
Here's the thing too, like when I like think about like what it's gonna be like when Jeff Passan tweets the tweet that says Yoshinobu Yamamoto in agreement with blank. I just can't imagine it actually being the Cardinals. I
Well,
can't. Like I can't see it because I've never seen it before. So
yeah.
I would love it. I hope it happens, but it it just seems so unlikely to me that, but likely at the
I
same
mean, you
time.
have seen it before. You saw his tweets about Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson just recently.
I did see those. Yeah, I unfortunately I saw them.
Hey, welcome to St. Louis, Lance. Welcome to St. Louis, Kyle. Welcome to St. Louis, YY. We got this. We got this.
No,
We're still going to win 80 games.
yeah, maybe 74.
All right, we got to go. We got to go. Anything else you need to say?
No.
All right, everyone, thank you again for joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. We greatly appreciate every one of you. I assume that we will be back to talk about Kenta Maeda, Michael Wacha, or someone like that here very soon. We will just have to see. Caleb, everything all right there? You just had a little moment.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just frustrated.
All right, guys. Hey, everybody have an awesome weekend. We will talk to you soon. Go Cards.